What's up guys, my name is Ace, and Season 3 is here, and with this, there were quite a few changes and bug fixes and things like that. So today, we're going to be going through the patch notes, and I'm going to share everything that I feel is really important to share, at least from the patch notes. A bunch of them are just bug fixes that you probably will never even notice anyway. So if you want to see all the details, of course, the patch notes will be in the description down below, but with my videos, I like to actually show you some testing whenever applicable. Additionally, I did want to give you guys the basic stats on the brand new guns, the SKS and the Renetti. So let's just kick this video off with that. Keep in mind, this is not a replacement for my gun guide series. I'm going to try and have the gun guides out for these guns within the next 4 or 5 days for both of them, I'm hoping, but it does take a lot of work to get those done. But with the SKS, this is a marksman rifle that you unlock at tier 31 of the battle pass. And it's a 2 to 3 shot kill, assuming you're hitting them in the body, but you do have a 1-shot kill potential to the head within 50 meters, which is a really solid range. And also, it should be noted that beyond 50 meters, if you're hitting them in the upper torso, it's still going to be a 2-shot kill for you. So the closest competition that it has here is the EBR-14, but the SKS actually has a noticeably faster fire rate than the EBR-14, and therefore a better overall time to kill. Additionally, the SKS has very little actual recoil. It's got a decent amount of visual recoil, but in reality, your groupings are actually pretty tight here. And based on my initial tests at least, it appears that the SKS is just objectively better than the EBR-14 at this point. Of course, maybe I'll find a few flaws as we get into the gun guide series, but just looking at the overall basic stats, the SKS is very solid. As for the Renetti, this is a pistol that's unlocked at tier 15 of the battle pass, and with this, it's a 3 to 4 shot kill, just like the other 9mm pistols like the M19. And it's quite interesting, this has the exact same fire rate cap as the M19 based on my testing. To top that off, its range values are actually a little bit better than the M19, and therefore the Renetti is definitely going to become my new go-to sidearm. I really like the M19, and that was my normal go-to, and the Renetti is just a little bit better based on what I can tell in the stats right now. Now to top that off, the Renetti does have the ability to have a 3-round burst attachment on, and this is within the barrel attachments. And with this, it does add quite a bit of recoil, so it makes it a lot less viable at mid to longer ranges. But if you're right up close and personal, like within that standard 3-shot kill range, this 3-round burst is incredibly powerful because you can put somebody down almost instantly. So for me, I see myself more so using this without the 3-round burst attachment. I think it's a very solid semi-auto, but for a lot of people, they definitely will like that burst. And that pretty much covers it for the really basic stats of the SKS and Renetti. I would say both of these are very, very solid guns that are clearly superior to their counterparts that were already in the game. But that's pretty much it for the 2 new weapons. We also got the 2 new maps. We got Backlot as well as Sawmill. And Backlot is a remake from COD 4. Nothing too much to say here aside from the fact that they added a lot of doors. And Sawmill looks pretty interesting. At the time of recording this video, I'm just trying to get all the information out to you guys, so I haven't actually had a chance to play this map yet, but it does look fairly interesting, and I don't know, I could see myself possibly enjoying this map. Now, getting into the stuff that has been fixed or changed within the game with this patch. First up, they lowered the maximum amount of XP and score that you get with the assists that you get on a decoy grenade. And I find this to be a little bit unfortunate. Like, I know some people were cheesing this out a little bit where they would use Point Man and then they would just spam decoy grenades out there. But honestly, I never really had an issue with that. Now, I don't really see much point in using a decoy grenade. But in either case, they did lower that a little bit. Also, it looks like they made some pretty serious audio adjustments to Warzone, and definitely some good steps in the right direction here. The first thing they did is they lowered the volume of the plane audio when you're first loading into the match. And that's awesome because for anybody that has their headset cranked up a little bit to hear those footsteps more effectively, anytime you dropped into the map, it was just so freaking loud with that plane. So it's nice that they've reduced the audio on that, and it is very noticeable. Same thing goes when you first enter the Gulag. The sounds in the cutscene, as well as all the cheering while you're in the Gulag, it seems like that has been reduced pretty significantly as well, which is going to be nice because, again, it felt like you were going to blow your eardrums out sometimes if you had your headset cranked up so that you could hear footsteps. Another really nice change to the audio is they reduced the volume of occluded far and distant weapons. I don't know the difference between far and distant when it comes to the patch notes, but basically what this means is gunshots that are really far away, especially if they're like over a hill or behind a building, they're not going to sound like they're much closer than they actually are anymore. It's actually going to sound like they're really far in the distance like they should. And I think that's great because it was often really confusing in Warzone. You would hear shots and then you'd start running towards them and then you'd realize you're still extremely far away from those shots, but it didn't really seem like it. So that's another excellent fix to the audio. And then the final thing that they mentioned in the patch notes here is they said that some footstep sounds while aiming down sight and crouching were cut short on the distance you could hear them depending on the surface type. Now this one seems a little bit strange because when you're crouch walking or aim down sight walking, you really don't make any footstep audio anyways, or at least not noticeable footstep audio in game. It's a great way to sneak up on players. So it seems like they were saying there was a problem where footsteps were cutting out, but you shouldn't be able to hear them in the first place. So I don't quite understand that one, but I am hoping that their patch notes are just being weird again, like they always are with Infinity Ward this year, and that they actually made some serious footstep adjustments, but I'll have to get some proper gameplay time in to really get a feel for that to see if anything else changed. Next up, when it comes to weapons, the Line Breaker variant of the EBR, it was bugged out, and in Warzone, you could get a one-shot kill to the head, whereas with the base variant of the EBR, you couldn't do that. And keep in mind, variants are supposed to be purely cosmetic, and in this case, it wasn't purely cosmetic. It was bugged out, so that was definitely a problem. Looks like they got that fixed with this patch, which is nice. Next up, the underbarrel smokescreen launchers weren't working in Warzone before this patch. You could shoot it out and everything, but no smoke would appear. That has been fixed as well, so you should actually get a smokescreen when using that smokescreen launcher. Also, with akimbo weapons, they now give you 2 extra starting magazines instead of just 1, which makes sense because you do have those 2 pistols, so it would make sense to have a little bit more ammo to go along with those 2 pistols. After that, we had some shotgun adjustments. A big thing here is they reduced the aim down sight spread with shotgun slugs. If you guys remember from my slug video quite a long time ago, you'll know that when you fire a slug, it is not going directly where you're aiming. It will generally hit somewhat near where you're aiming, but it's not very precise at all. And post-patch, it's still not perfectly precise. It's not going to go exactly where the dot is when you pull the trigger. However, it is a much tighter spread now, and this sort of spread makes sense for the effective ranges of these slugs, because for most of the shotgun slugs, you don't have an extreme range that you're able to get a one-shot kill on an enemy anyways. So yeah, we do get a slightly better spread when aiming down sight and firing slugs now, which is nice to see. Now, that's not the only shotgun change. With the VLK Rogue, which is the newest shotgun that we got, they slightly improved its hipfire spread, so you should be able to get more consistent pellets on target while hipfiring with this, which is nice because this shotgun is not very good. I would actually say it's probably the worst shotgun in the game right now. But I did do the math on this, and it looks like they reduced the overall diameter of your hipfire spread by 15%, which is noticeable, and that should help the VLK be a little bit better, but I still don't think it's a very good shotgun. Now, one last general thing to point out with weapons is they did rename a few attachments for some guns, but it looks like they just changed the names, so the performance didn't change at all. So yeah, you might notice some of the attachments have a different name now. It's still the same attachment, and they still perform the same. Now finally, let's get into a bunch of Warzone-specific changes. First up, quads is here. It has replaced trios, at least for now, so we've got quads, and I'm really happy to see this. I'm excited to hop in with my 3 other friends that I normally play with. It always really sucked in trios because there was always one person that got left out, it seems like. Now we're back to quads, which is great. Additionally, they now give you an indicator of how far away your teammates are from you. So if you look towards your teammates in Warzone, you can actually see exactly how many meters they are away from you, which I guess is nice. I don't really see how this changes too much overall, except maybe for the people that don't know how to use a mini-map, or if you end up like on the complete opposite ends of the map from your teammate for whatever reason. But yeah, they did add that little indicator for you. Additionally, I got really excited when I saw this in the patch notes. They said there's a fix for the gas mask animation, interrupting and blocking players from deploying their parachute. The first part of that sounded great until I realized this is only for those situations when you're trying to deploy your parachute. The animation is still there if you run into the gas or the gas catches up to you and you have a gas mask. You still can't avoid that animation, and it's still going to be getting you killed in a lot of situations, which I find to be very, very frustrating. I don't understand the need for an animation here, simply because there are so many situations where you're actually better off without a gas mask. And I don't think it should be that way. I think having a gas mask should be a very good thing. It should be a highly sought after piece of loot, not something that you're a little bit worried to actually take with you because it could screw you over in some situations, especially super late into the game. So personally, I'd love it if they just did away with that animation completely and just have it so the gas mask appears and disappears automatically, like it does sometimes when it gets bugged out. Now, on top of that, with Warzone, there were a bunch of bug fixes relating to like not being able to revive a teammate in some situations or not being able to put armor plates on. Again, I'm not going to go into all of the details of every single one of those fixes just because many of them are things that you have probably never even run into in the first place. But one really important fix here is they fixed the situations where you were unable to self-revive in solos, and this is excellent to see. I ran into this one a few times where I had self-revive, but I didn't get an opportunity to revive myself at all. And the big change here in Warzone is they once again increased the price of loadout drops to 10,000 cash. Now, when it comes to squad-based modes, especially now that we have quads instead of trios, I am 100% on board with this price increase to the loadout drops. Having said this, I do wish they would differentiate this depending on which mode you're playing and how many players are on a team. For solos, for instance, I think 10,000 might be a bit much. I don't think it should be quite that high for solo play, but like I said, absolutely for quads, 10,000 seems very reasonable. So it would be nice if they adjusted that depending on the game mode that you're playing, but that's just my opinion. Of course, just let me know if you agree or disagree with that in the comments down below. Also with Warzone, you might notice that the loot pool on the ground is completely different with this update. So I'm seeing a lot of M4s and Uzis and FAMASs as just those standard guns on the ground. So it seems like they're kind of rotating through and they're trying a different set of ground loot, which is interesting. And honestly, I hope they continue doing this, or I just hope they add everything as a potential piece of ground loot. But this is kind of nice. I think it'll shift the meta around a little bit, at least in the early game situations. And that's just one little way that they can help keep the game fresh. But finally, one last big fix with this update that relates to Warzone is they fixed an issue where final circles would sometimes be completely out of bounds on the map, which is ridiculous, or they would just be in a really undesirable area, like on the stadium, for instance, because the only way up to the stadium is with a helicopter, and therefore if somebody's camping up there and then you happen to get a final circle right on top of the stadium, they're effectively guaranteed to win that game, unless maybe you could call a kill streak in on them. But almost every single time, they're going to win that game without actually having to fight for it. They just happen to be in the right position at the right time with a helicopter. But with that, that pretty much covers it for all of the stated patch notes with this big Season 3 update. As we know with Infinity Ward, their track record when it comes to patch notes has been sketchy at best this year. And it seems like a very common thing for them to make changes without ever mentioning them in the patch notes. Of course, at this point, it's too early on to detect any of those stealth changes, but this is where I'm asking from you guys, if you feel like you notice something is different or you know something has changed with this update that wasn't listed in the patch notes, please let me know in the comments down below. I'd be happy to go and test this out and see what else changed, if anything, behind the scenes. And with that, I'd like to know in the comment section below, what did you guys think about this update for Season 3? Are you generally pretty happy with the changes they made, or are there some changes that you're unhappy with? Also, what are your thoughts on the new weapons, the SKS and the Renetti? If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.